Hello, and welcome to the Wandering Gamer Network's campaign retrospective for Wanderlust. We like to do these post-game wrap-ups to finish out our campaigns before we set off on our next adventure. And I'm really excited for this one because we've been waiting literal years to hear some of these behind the GM screen plans that we thoroughly mucked up for Cody. So Cody, we're going to get into the meat of it right away because I'm excited about it. Where did we as the players take the story that was unexpected? And how did you originally imagine it going, like, at the beginning?
Yes. So at the beginning, so I did not have as fixed of a plan on this one as I did on the last one. So it was not as...
On Outlaws.
As Outlaws. So it was not as detailed from the beginning, like what everything was going to be. But I think... Okay, what was the third arc?
The Long Walk.
Yeah, so I think that was where, like, it expanded more in my mind what it was going to be. Because originally I imagined it being, like, maybe 4 arcs. And getting to the heart of the forest was the end. Like, that was going to be, like... You can go into a deeper wilds and now you're like really lost, right? But I think kind of what ended up happening was the town took on so much of a life of its own that I wanted there to be more to do with that. And I wanted there to be like more in-town drama and stuff like that. So it's sort of the town more than anything kind of ruined it for me, and your guys' investment in the town, because then there was stuff that I wanted to do with that. But, like, the end of Bug City, you guys, was such a... Like, from what I imagined happening at the end of that one was a huge shift. And then kind of after that, I was like, okay, I want this to kind of take on a little bit more. Like, I don't want to end it in one more arc. I want it to have this sort of second season in the wilds when things get weird. Because I wanted that idea of, like, it pushing you guys more and more to, like, deal with, you know... So sorry, I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's the answer.
Yeah, no, that is. And I know, like, when Lance came back, that caused a big shift in your future plans as well, right?
Well, so that's sort of funny because it sort of did and didn't. It just made that there was, like, another thing you guys had to deal with all the time, which was, like, this growing tension with Lance and his village and what that meant. And it was sort of directly what led to the idea of there being a coup in Smoky Banks, was that Lance came back and then had an impact on the world, so I wanted that to be felt, even if it wasn't just him, but it was like the world shifted because of that, because it was not, I had not intended on you guys ever meeting that place, any of those characters originally. That was not there at all. That was supposed to be, Lance died, he was like, he was as much of a character as like the big hunter guy that became
right, the
like wolf with horns at the end, you know, like, he was supposed to be that much of a character, and then
he got pulled on stage and had to do things.
Guys, did the thing you always do, which is create NPCs by being nice.
So that segues really nicely because this was a campaign with a lot of long-running NPCs and NPC relationships, both romantic and otherwise. Did that change your approach to the game or how you prepped?
Yeah, and I regret it. So that's actually the thing that I think I messed up on the most, which is that I think because I did so much NPC work, I think it sort of hampered how much the party relied on each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, on the one hand, I'm, like, fine with going, like, okay, you want to have an NPC that you're close to, and each of you have your own NPC that you're close to. That's all fine, but I think it just it meant that some of those scenes I think would have been better for your guys' thing. So it sort of made it harder on me because it meant that scenes that normally I think I could have been like sitting back and watching you guys have an emotionally relevant scene meant I had to do 3 or 4 emotionally relevant scenes, you know, as we're going through each time. So that sort of like added a layer of difficulty because it meant that I had to be thinking about what all those characters did. Yeah.
I was just thinking back. I don't even know if this one was ever recorded. It might have been before we started recording, but I was just remembering a scene back in when we played 5e, and Nyx and Dane had a nice scene where Nyx ended up in the bottom of a beer barrel, and
I think that's one of our first episodes of Voyage of Vagabonds. Yeah.
Was it actually recorded? I couldn't remember if it was recorded or not. But that's I love that type of scene that we had there.
Right. Yeah.
That is something that we didn't have as much with when a lot of those scenes were with NPCs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, my advice on that would be like, I don't really know the right way to handle it other than maybe just like encouraging more inter-party stuff. Like, well, and this is where I think maybe there was also like a hiccup of like, I could have done more with like campfire stuff, like campfire scenes being more of a thing, but it just wasn't always the right time for it. So that, cause it's like when you're in the middle of something like crazy, there's not always time to like sit down and have a heart to heart. So yeah, I think maybe like finding something mechanically, even if it's not in the system, like, hey, we roll a dice and we're having a scene about this now, you know, just to like force that kind of conversation instead of, assuming it'll happen organically, is I think maybe facilitate that with either setting or mechanics.
Right. So that people are like diversifying where they're putting like they're investing their emotional chips in the game, basically.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So the system we used for this game was Fate Core, which
Barely.
we were all new to, I believe.
Well, no, we had done actually a lot of Fate.
We had an unrecorded bout with Fate.
Yeah.
About 10 years ago.
Oh, I just got old.
How was that experience for you as a GM?
I don't hate Fate. I think you kind of have to invest into like doing the system, like making aspects, then remembering that you've made aspects. I think it sort of ends up happening that I don't know if it's a good habit or a bad habit, but it's a habit that I sort of let games not be games and just rely on you guys role-playing through things. Like, if you come up with a smart enough plan or execute the plan well enough in how you talk, I don't really make you roll. So it's like kind of rare that you guys were rolling, because I'm like, well, if you do something smart, you've done something smart. You know what I mean? So like for that type of game, it worked. And I think it worked very well. I think, you know, obviously, you know, and there's going to be more about this at the end, but the next game I'm running is not that. It's going to be more rules heavy, just because I kind of miss there being some mechanical crunch to a game at this point now, because I've run something so loose for quite a while.
So who would you recommend Fate Core to, and who would you like not recommend it for? You know, for people listening who are like, oh, Wanderlust is so fun, I should do Fate Core. Like, who would you be like, yes, and who would you be like, no, please don't?
I would say either you need to be willing to put in a lot of legwork to making that system's rules make sense, because it's not a full game. Like, there's a lot of, like, Powered by the Apocalypse games that are Apocalypse Worlds is a proper game, right? Fate Core isn't. It's a framework on which you can build a world. So if you're going to do Fate, either get a book that is a complete rule set, or no, you're doing a lot of legwork.
And we started this campaign with doing, like, a really extensive collaborative world building exercise, I guess. I don't remember if we played an actual game, like, mini RPG for it, but we did a ton. There's like 6 episodes of it. So do you think that was like kind of critical to making Fate work? Like without having a rule book, like a setting book?
So I don't even think the shortcoming of Fate to me isn't setting, which, yeah, I mean, obviously you're going to have to do if you don't have a setting book, but for me, for Fate to work, what you either need is a GM who's willing to put in a lot of legwork to make a game that functions. Because like Fate to me as a rule system is lacking, not even as a setting, just as a rule system. There's a lot missing.
Okay.
Because there's like stunts and abilities and all those things. There's not like a list of those to pick from. You either have to figure out how to make them yourself, or you have to buy an expansion book that gives you stunts and character classes and all this other stuff, right? So a lot of things that we did, either it was on you guys to be clever and come up with something that was like a stunt that worked that you'd want to use, or it was on me to come up with something that was clever and fun and would actually want to be usable, because there wasn't anything in the book for it. Now, that's just Fate, the like mechanical game. Now, in terms of doing the setting thing, I think that was a really fun exercise. I just enjoyed doing that regardless of the game. The only downside I see with doing that much like world building together is it does sort of mean that the world is not going to have spoilers. Like the known world is not going to have spoilers, because so much of it or there's nothing hidden, right? Like, you guys knew everything about the world, which is good because you ended up interacting with the unknown. But if that's not true about your world, sort of all this world building stuff kind of then means your players know everything about your world. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. But, we didn't know about moon bases, so, it works out okay.
Yeah, I guess that's one solution. If the players know everything about the world, if the players have made the world, just isekai them.
Yeah, right. And then you have
don't know anything about the world anymore.
all sorts of worlds, which is kind of what we did. So what?
Yeah, it's not entirely wrong. Yeah.
So what would you say you learned from this game as a whole, and like what takeaways do you have for yourself for future games?
Stop trying to make randomly generated maps. It's a waste of time, and it's harder than you think. That's a big one.
I don't know if we talked about the beginning, like the how into the hex stuff we were. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, that was too much. It was too much. It took too long. It took...
You phrased that wrong. How into the hex stuff Cody was.
Well, we all had to be there, man. Like, we workshopped that. We did some unrecorded stuff, like trying to figure out, like, okay, this is how we're doing, like, a walk in the forest, like mechanically. We workshopped that together quite a bit.
And I think it's worth mentioning that we referenced the previous time that we played Fate. We played a short little campaign in Fate before we ever started recording, and that one was another attempt at doing like fully random, where every time it was based on a bunch of islands, and every time we'd go to a new island, Cody would roll on a table and figure out what was on this island, and that was also didn't quite work as well as we wanted it to.
See, that one I was honestly fine with. Like, in terms of like making a long, because that one wasn't recorded and it was goofy, right? It was just like, hey, we're having fun here. So there was like, I remember, like, there was like a time, I think it was near Halloween, and it was just like the way the dice rolled. We did an island that was based on the song Actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf, And it's like, that's...
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Nuts, but it was funny, and it was the tone of the game, right?
Right, yeah.
But the thing is, it's like, I'm pretty good, I hope, because sometimes you guys don't know when it happens, at totally winging it. You know what I mean? There's times when you guys are like, hey, look, I have this beautiful railroad built all for you. There's some switches. You can pick some stuff. And then you guys are like, screw your tracks. We're going over here. And I'm like, all right. We're going to pretend
if you want Caitlin to stop resurrecting people, just tell her.
Well,
Never.
Yeah, there was a lot.
If you don't want me to ruin all of your plans, just stop making plans.
Well, right. But like, and that's like the Bug City thing. To me, the best example of this was Bug City, where you guys fully made up the end of that. The whole plot of that was like none of it was written down. Like, finding out that like the throat of the thing was wounded and that's why it was lost. Making new vocal cords, playing that on a tower that you used the builder, like none of that was planned. All of that was you guys just going nuts, So I think it's just like, if I want to improv something, I can. And if I want to have you guys walk through a forest, I'll just make up events. I'm trying to roll on charts for that was just not worth it. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the hex thing was too much. But I mean, that is like, and I mean, this happened with Fate, or with, Outlaws 1 and 2, where it's like we kind of had to redo some systems as we were going, because I homebrew so much. So yeah, just be willing to go like, hey, this isn't working. We're doing it different now.
Yeah.
Like, this is too much,
Yeah. All right, so now you get to boost all of our egos.
Do you want to give him a break for a second and have us boost his ego for a second?
Sure.
Because he's just been talking straight for a while.
Okay. Yeah, we could switch to players to give Cody a little bit of a break. It's our favorite time of favorites. So everybody gets to say what your favorite part about playing this character for this campaign.
My favorite part where Cody thought he had a slam dunk and that we were going to follow his railroad exactly, and that the party was split completely on it, was Cheer Chick coming back to life. Cody was confident.
Oh, yeah.
That one is, to me, the funniest, where you're like, oh, you ignore my railroads? I'm like, I don't do that. And then you're like, that wasn't a choice. You were supposed to click Cheer Chick comes back. And me and Mandy were just like, absolutely not. We clicked that delete button so fast. And like, I was talking with Caitlin, and Caitlin's like, well, why didn't you step up and do that then? And I'm like, I had done a lot of other button pushing in that game. I figured someone else should get the opportunity to at least look at the screen first. But man, Cody dodged a bullet with that one.
He did.
Anyway, what was your actual question, Caitlin?
My actual question was, what was your favorite part about playing this character? This has also been our longest campaign, so it's a character that we've been with the longest. So if that affects your answer.
My favorite thing is that characters who protag are the best. Someone who's willing to jump into danger is just always fun, because whenever I get bored with a situation, I can just be like, cool, I jump into danger.
Yep, that's the Jyla move. I love that move.
It's so nice.
It's great.
I came from playing Sully, who was reserved and cautious and the counterbalance to Jyla, which is fine, but I'm the one where it's like, we should think about all of our options. Slow to act, and then it's like, you're gonna have fun being like, I blow up stuff, and I'm like, I'm doing that next game. And there you get Autumn.
There you go.
I really liked, my favorite part about playing Estelle was the relationship with Matthew. I think my like only thing is I kind of wish I had like one more arc of dealing with that relationship, because I feel like once we hit the long walk, like after that, there was a little bit of like, yeah, I recognize that he's an adult who can, do things himself. But I really enjoyed that relationship, and it just meant that I got to do, even more of what I did in Outlaws, which is exactly what I wanted to do.
I'd say my favorite part of playing Fred was all the wild and ridiculous solutions to puzzles that we came up with that Fred got to craft, and just all the tools and stuff he got to make. Just that's kind of what I set out to do with this character, is have him be a guy that makes things and solves problems. And I initially built him to be more of a charlatan. Like, I was gonna have him. My initial thought for him was I was gonna have him be like guy in town that sells snake oil type of stuff.
Right.
And that didn't really happen as much. Like, there was a couple instances of it, and we saw it in the last arc there, where he was given what's his name? I can't remember his name.
Montgomery, I think. Yeah.
Montgomery, yeah, business lad, giving him advice on how to do this. And that was me. That was my attempt to try to bring this back to what I initially envisioned Fred as. But I did enjoy all the different crafting things we got to do.
I think Fred worked well as an ex-con man. You know what I mean? Like, he clearly used to do this. Now he's turning over a new leaf,
Everybody's turning over a new leaf in Smoky Banks. I think my favorite part about playing Juliet was, like, having a character with, like, so much tension between, like, internally, like, what her natural inclinations were, but then also, like, dealing with the pull of the wilds and, like, still needing to do things, and how you can be reluctant about something or, like, scared of something and still do it. So I liked that.
Can I say my favorite part of you playing Juliet?
Sure.
You know those memes where they say, like, D&D is a competition, it's about breaking the DM? The amount of times that you would say something in character, and I'd just see Cody's face just cringe in pain or go completely vacant, and him have an out-of-body experience. The first time of this happening, where he, like, sarcastically says, on the riverboat into Smoky Banks, it's like, would you like a manual for this? And Juliet goes, oh, is there one? I'd love that.
Okay, that is my favorite part of playing Juliet, is those moments.
The thing
You're right.
that kept happening the whole time, where Cody would be like, sarcastically say something, and Caitlin would respond in character, and Cody would just be like,
see, I can yes and you hate it. All right. More favorites time. Everybody gets to go down and say your favorite NPC. I guess we can go rapid fire with that, maybe? I
mean, this feels unfair, but Willow. I got to marry an NPC. I think she's my favorite.
If no one says Teddy, I'm quitting this podcast.
Teddy's one of my favorites as well. And I liked...
Teddy's own boss won't say that Teddy's the favorite.
Yeah, that's called workplace harassment, Vinny, and, Autumn isn't about that. She took the seminars.
My cheat answer is Matthew, but my non-cheat answer is, I can't remember his exact name, but the lighthouse guy. I think it was Ruben.
Ruben.
Yeah.
I liked Ruben a lot.
Ruben's a delight. I obviously really like Maul. I liked her from the very first time. 3 years ago, I looked up when Cody first sent his hook for this game, and he recorded like a little scene with Maul, like running out of a cave, like at like treasure hunting and getting chased by, I think, Proto Blighthound, essentially. And I listened to that and was like,
yeah,
Cody, You're telling me she's going to be in the game, right? But I also really liked Mitchell, and I just felt like he, like, especially in early arcs, he had so much. I thought it was well done in that to the characters, he like had some conflict with his goals and the characters' goals. But like as a player, I found him really likable and understandable and sympathetic, and I liked that combination.
So I have a couple answers for this.
It's so hard to pick a favorite NPC.
I know. I did also really like Maul from the beginning, like right when Maul was introduced. I thought that I was hoping that she and Fred would have closer relationship because they were almost kindred spirits.
Ex-con, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Ex-con.
I thought they would have gotten along really well, but then I'm trying to think of how, like, I didn't necessarily want Fred to, like, be, like, romantically interested in her or anything like that. Like, I wasn't aiming for that at all, because that would just almost be like a repeat of Seamus and Lucia a little bit. But I was hoping that Fred and Maul would have had more interactions where they can kind of swap con stories.
Well, I do really like that moment in the underground thing where she's like trying to pull one over on the group for fun, and Fred calls her on it immediately because he thinks they have the same brain.
Oh, there was also the thing where she gave him like I think she gave him like a skeleton key. Like,
yes, yep, in the holiday special.
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I like those moments that are sprinkled in.
Yep.
She's a delight.
Another of my favorites would have to be Honey, because she gave Fred grief. She made me uncomfortable as a player to interact with, which challenges me as a player.
In general, I would say there aren't many NPCs that I didn't really like in Wanderlust.
That's fair. Well, yeah, as Cody said, like the town kind of took on its own gravity, you know, and it's because of the character, the NPCs. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'd say the commander of Echo Base was kind of a jerk.
Yeah, I didn't really like him.
I don't know if I'd say I like him.
All right, favorite arcs. My favorite arc, Bug City. Love me some Bug City.
I think the first one, I like the Blighthounds. Like, I liked everything in Arc 1, except we didn't get to meet Willow till Arc 2, so, you know.
I think I'd have to put my favorite arc at Bug City 2, specifically the end, because that was a lot of my plan, and I was so proud of that.
And that was like so intense too, like the storm and the tower, like it was like really high intensity, very fun. But no, I just liked the magical feeling of like discovering something new and just like the wonder of like being inside it and like picturing it and climbing on it and like finding clues and all that stuff.
There was like a good deadline with it and for me, like dealing with the problem and figuring out a solution was so satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my favorite one was The Long Walk. Because that's kind of where the story kind of started to break open in terms of we start to really understand what's happened in this world and what our place in it is. And even though it still opened up so many more questions that we didn't have answers to, but it's kind of like we all had our individual journeys in that where we ended up with our special powers, and it kind of opened up like this world is weird. This world is really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not moon people, which we were convinced of for far too long. I was convinced of for far too long.
I was with you on that one.
I had to break so many hearts with that one.
Especially when we had that moon base.
There was one moon base.
Yeah, it was introduced in the very first arc and then was never addressed again.
It was rolled randomly on a table.
Again, random tables, but people don't do them, man.
The things you don't know you're signing up for when you roll on a random table is like your players will want to know about that moon base. You better have it all fleshed out.
You also found an Oregon Trail guy in like a Conestoga wagon tugboating across the plains, you know, but you're not like, we're Oregon Trail, but one moon base, you guys are like, this is it, we figured out the puzzle.
See, because like that like isn't as crazy, you know, like it's like, oh, he's like Oregon trailing it. It's like that's technology we had, and we were like, oh, maybe there's some weird time dilation, and then we found a moon base where it's like, and our world was made with innumerable moons.
Moons were kind of our jam. Also, I was really convinced for a long time that Maul was a moon person, and that was not the case. A lot of moon talk.
A lot of moon talk, yeah. Yeah, a lot of moon talk.
And favorite scene for your character?
That's hard.
It is.
Well, because like it's also like I have favorites for different reasons. You know, it's not just like this is the best scene I did.
Yeah.
See, a lot of Fred's scenes were just Fred being sarcastic at somebody.
An oldie but a goodie.
I'd say for Fred, it's kind of like going back to the long walk. His scene of like establishing what he wants, like why he's here, what he wants to do.
I was gonna say, I think for me, a lot of my favorite scenes from you guys were from the long walk.
You know, this is the arc that I was least in, so it's a little hurtful.
That's true. Somebody went and fought a god and then was gone for a while.
I mean, I do have favorite lines. I like the line when we're fighting the mushroom person and I say, "You're not even the scariest god I've killed."
All thanks to the long walk.
And then I like the lighthouse line I had at the very end.
Mm-hmm. That was a good line.
I don't know if I have like a specific favorite scene for Estelle other than like I agree with Caitlin when she was saying she likes Mitchell, or like Mitchell, especially from the beginning where he like was a little antagonistic, but you could understand why. Like a lot of the scenes with him, I really liked from the beginning because it was just like us trying to figure out what was going on. But probably my all-time favorite scene, like over the whole campaign was, the reef and beef scene.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Oh, that was a good one.
It was so good.
I was gonna say, I really like when Maul and Juliet got together. That was something I had to, like, think about as a player. I was, like, legit nervous, like I was asking out a real girlfriend, which is hilarious. But the reef and beef, like, that episode, love that episode. Like, I think it's episode 27. I've listened to it multiple times because it's got the reef and beef, which is just a delight, beginning to end. And it's also got, Willow and Autumn's, like, first swim date, which is just the cutest thing in the world. So yeah.
I do like Will and Autumn's dates. They're all pretty good.
The baguette one, also a big favorite of mine.
Also, their radio interview. I think that might be the radio interview at the beginning, where she, like, just tells everyone about the Wild Watchers by accident because she's not part of it yet, and she's like the weird blight hounds, and then it's like the interview ends, she walks outside and Mitchell's there. You can't tell this on the radio.
You like ran across town. Yeah.
Some of my favorite interactions, not necessarily like specific scenes, but I always loved watching Estelle and Matthew interact because Matthew was such a pain in the ass to deal with sometimes, and it was so funny just to watch Mandy's facial expressions, and it's like, it's a mix of Estelle being frustrated with Matthew and Mandy being frustrated with Cody.
The best kind of play.
Cody, who's your favorite
Cody.
NPC?
Oh, ooh. I think my favorite NPC, shocking nobody here, was Lance.
You're welcome. As the person who brought him back to life, you're welcome.
Getting to have that character. Well, and it was just such a good character to be like the exact opposite of you guys, which was sort of the point of the falling into the wilds thing, was like, you know, everyone's an idealist until people are dying, and this was someone who could be like, no, I've done that. Like, I don't care about your ideals. My friends are dead. Doesn't matter anymore. You know, like, gloves are off. We're not messing around, you know? So I think that as, like...
My girlfriend is a mushroom person.
Yeah, like, that as a foil to you guys, I think, was probably my favorite NPC. That or Teti, just because I came up with a really weird vocal puzzle for, like, a color code and musical code for learning to talk to the bug people. So getting to, like, voice that character was just fun, and that whole thing was fun. So, yeah. Lance or Teti.
You mentioned Lance there, and that actually reminds me of another of my favorite. It's like, so Fred had those like flashbacks he could do where if he licked an object, he could see history of stuff. And I think my favorite, they were all good. That's the hard part, is they were all pretty good. But the one that really kind of changed Fred's view on stuff, I think the most was when he got to see Lance's history, and kind of helped Fred understand Lance a little bit better and the struggles he's been through and what he's trying to do. Yeah, let me
tell you what, here's GM advice. If you give someone the ability to have a flashback on any object, think hard about how much you're going to have to come up with emotionally relevant flashbacks every time they lick something, you know? Because it was more than I thought. It was more than I thought, but it was also clever when done.
This feels like the same problem I had with, like, I gave you a amulet where you can disguise yourself, and you're like, we're using it for everything. Everything. Like, we're going down the street to get bread with the amulet.
Yeah, I tried not to overuse that power because those scenes ended up being very long, and I didn't want to force you to come up with something out of nowhere as too often. I tried to use it when it made sense, when it would be like...
Yeah, and you did. It was always good.
It'd be really nice to know something about this object.
Also, they cost a fate point, which are expensive.
It was a convenient way to do exposition at times, too, which was also nice. You know, if you needed to exposition dump, that was a way that I could do it.
I want to complain about fate for 2 seconds. This is a complaint I have about a lot of RPGs, is when they're like, you do this once per session. That is not a meaningful unit of time.
Oh yeah, all people writing RPGs define lengths of time for sessions. Because, fun fact, we play in hour chunks, and sometimes we do 2 of those back to back in an evening, and that's all. And none of this session garbage. We want an amount of time.
I feel like in my head a session is 3 hours typically, but then I have to keep track of like every 3rd episode this refreshes, and that's
crazy, yeah.
Annoying, you know, but yeah, I agree. Just I think sessions we should just call them an hour and move on with it and never think about it again. But I agree with you.
Yeah, that's like my complaint, because I've read other things that do the same thing. I'm like, a session can be anywhere from like 30 minutes to 8 hours, depending on who you're playing with. Session is not a thing. It's like saying a month. A month is not an actual measurement, a useful measurement, because it's like, that's anywhere from 28 to 31 days.
I disagree with you on months, but I agree with you on your point. So I don't know what to do here, because I want to fight with you, because that's a negligible amount of days, but it's whatever.
Well, instead, you're going to tell us what you think each player's best moment was.
Oh.
Ooh, that is hard.
Because we all had so many good ones. God dang it, Caitlin.
I feel like a lot of these are going to be long walk related, because like,
gosh dang it.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I think that like Autumn killing herself was a good moment.
That was, yeah, just
because it was a good moment for her character to find out, or his whatever, you know what I mean.
I get you.
It was a good moment for the character to find out that there were limits, and it also, I think, was good to have the party, like, that whole arc was made better. I'm sorry, this is going to sound bad. That whole arc was made better by Autumn's absence. Not because Autumn was a bad addition to the team, but because having a shakeup of the team was like, we're not messing around. Like, this is harrowing. And it made Juliet dying believable. Mm-hmm. And that added tension through it. So, like, if that hadn't been, it was sort of like the red shirt of that arc, you know? But because of the way that story was structured, I had an out where I didn't have to, like, stick you with this forever that your character was just dead.
But there was, like, an episode where it was like, Autumn, we don't have Autumn. Zach gets a new character sheet so that he can play the hunter guy who was with the party at the time.
His name is Hector, and you guys should respect my character that I played. Yes.
So we didn't know what had happened to Autumn, like, out of game. Zach just had a character sheet for Hector, and then we hit record.
Yeah, we started Cody talked with me about it beforehand, because he's like, hey, I don't want to, like, actually, like, make you upset. Are you cool with this? And I'm like, yeah, and he's like, okay, don't tell anyone. So we're like,
yeah, right. Because I wanted that tension to linger for the rest of you.
Which I think we told them after, like, I think that episode, like, the first episode, like, we find Autumn in the cocoon, like.
Yes, yeah. But there was, like, an episode of, like, we don't know what's happened to Autumn. We're keeping going. And Zach has a new character sheet.
And I will say that is the quintessential protagonist gonna protag.
Yes, yeah.
Zach said that he set out to do with Autumn is like jump into danger and basically get yourself killed.
I mean, she was not in a good headspace, and like that's the thing is like saying that it was an enjoyable thing to do or my favorite part to do is like unfair because like at a certain point being a character that miserable and being in that headspace is not fun. But it was an interesting challenge to play someone who was going off the rails in a very destructive to themselves sort of way.
I will say the long walk is one where I was incredibly tense playing it. And then I went back and listened to it and I was like, wow, this is so much less less intense and enjoyable to listen to. Whereas like I was really keyed up while we were playing it. It was hard to fall asleep afterwards, you know, like that sort of thing. But then listening back, I was like, now I can enjoy the story for what's happening, you know?
Pro tip, kill your character, then it's not tense anymore.
Well, hey, Juliet did that. So then I think my favorite moment for Juliet was also the long walk, and it was just bringing Lance back and ruining my trick puzzle by immediately figuring it out.
That was another moment where just watching Cody die inside, where he spends 3 minutes describing a puzzle, and Caitlin goes, "I try the door," and Cody's just like, "Do you want me to make up an answer, or do you want the actual answer?" And Caitlin's like, "What's the actual answer?" He's like, that was the answer. You're done with my puzzle.
The door opens, yeah. My favorite moment for Estelle was definitely Bug City. Just so much of that plan was Estelle figuring out a way to move an animal, and that was very much like her thing, because she was like the vet. And I think, yeah, Bug City also just got, it's like the honorable mention to the whole group, as like you guys worked together as a team and did something really cool that I had not at all planned. But it was a very good plan from Estelle, so I really liked that. That, and honestly, like the wrestling match.
Oh, the dance off?
No, the wrestling match in 2 episodes ago was hilarious. Yeah, that was a really good, that just made that episode so fun. And then for Fred, I think my favorite interaction was just him and the business lad. Like, it's just so fun. Like, because like there's been like a lot of good Fred moments, but I do feel like that kind of like slimy side of Fred got lost a little bit, and it was fun for it to come back. You know what I mean? Because he built something, but also was a little bit of like a scammer, and I like that. You know, that's like I liked that character, so it was fun for that to come back for a minute. Because like the like moments where Fred was like working with the stone frogs to like help to like show them a new technology was cool, or like, you know, figuring out a puzzle, because frequently Vinny, you the person, would frequently get the right answer right away to puzzles. So
thanks, Vinny.
It's like my curse is either Caitlin or Mandy breaking my game and Vinny just knowing the answer right away immediately upon walking into the room.
And I'm Peggy.
It's almost like we went to school together, had a lot of the same activities, and people thought we were the same person.
Yeah, when it comes to guessing things. But yeah, so those were my favorites.
All right. I think that's all the questions I have for everyone, unless we have any outstanding things that we want to say about Wanderlust.
I'll miss it.
Yeah.
I think my final thoughts on it were, this was one of the longer games that I ran, and it was one where I think I had the most NPCs that I really cared about and liked. I think it was a little bit at times me playing a game by myself or with just one of you, because I liked too many of my NPCs and I liked my weird little town. But I did really like how much the town and the setting could push your characters. Whether it was there being a coup that you guys did not like or support or know about, like, that is a positive takeaway from this, I would say, is the fact that, like, so many of you were kind of upset with me about the coup. I'm doing that more, because I think it was good upset. That it was like, the world shifted in a way that we're not happy with, and it's like, yep, that's how stories do sometimes, you know? Like, upsetting things are gonna happen, you know? But I did like having a town that felt like it took on a life of its own. I just should have given more opportunities for, like, PC interaction. But also just as, like, a notion for there being a flip side to, like, this kind of overly civilized view of humanity, that there is this flip of, like, well, but there is this sort of, like, more brutal side that I don't think should be ignored and lost when talking about nature, that it isn't a nice thing that we can cultivate and perfect and make nice for ourselves. It's like, no, it's a pretty bad place, actually. And we're surviving it, and that is impressive in its own right. But anyways, I really liked Wanderlust. I'm glad we got to do it.
Yay.
For my players, if it got a little bit long in the tooth, I apologize.
I just went back and looked. We are almost hitting 3 years since we started Wanderlust.
We were doing pre-work for it 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, that long? I didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah, July 2022 is when we recorded the first episode.
So it's been a lovely 3 years.
Yeah, because I guess we started it. Did we start it more like close to the same
Yeah.
time as Corsairs?
Yeah.
Corsair started an arc before, I believe.
And then-
like, it was the arc 1 of Corsairs, then arc 1 of Wanderlust.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we each did world
Okay.
building.
Then did all of Corsairs, and then you guys have done an entire arc of Desperation.
Yeah, an honorable mention for Wanderlust 2 is that I got so invested in the setting that I realized I'd gone 30 some years of my life and not known that I liked writing. Wanderlust made me start writing things, and that is cool.
Caitlin started writing fan fiction.
I did write some, I think, pretty fun fan fiction for Wanderlust, and then that spiraled off into doing other things, but I'm happy about that.
And you can find all her fanfiction published at...
AO3.
No, it's not
If you don't
published-
find it there, write your own and tag us.
Right. No, honestly, email the Wandering Gamer Network at wanderinggamernetwork@gmail.com.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
If you want chapters of Wanderlust, I can send you some fun things. But anyway, Cody, get us hyped for our next campaign with you.
In a world.
Yeah, so next campaign is going to be a extremely separate from like canonical stories, Star Wars, set on a planet ruled by a aged Sith warlord whose children are beginning to vie for control, with the assumption being that their father is going to die someday, even though hasn't yet, and like I said, is extremely old. And then meanwhile into all of this, it's funny because I want to call it the New Old Republic, but the not yet old Republic shows up and offers them membership with, a little bit of force behind it into the Republic, with the assumption being like, hey, you're not ruled by a warlord anymore, but rather by us, sort of. But yeah, the idea is it's going to be a heist game where all the characters play as like kind of scrappy, low-life heisting people that are trying to, do jobs for all these differing factions that are trying to win control of this system of planets. So yeah, it should be a good time. It will be a lot more mechanically driven and a lot of heisting your way through vaults and stealing things and trying to escape. So yeah, it's my space crime game.
That'll be called On the Brink, and that'll be coming out once Wanderlust is totally posted. So stay tuned.
Also after the next arc of Desperation after that, too. It's a ways
Yes.
out for being posted, is what I'm trying to say.
Stay tuned. Until next time, keep wondering, everybody. Bye.
Bye!